Hello and welcome to Unwind Sessions, where right after my shift I give the highlights of my workday and hope to do so live with a Q&A right after. My name is Juan. I am an English Spanish medical video remote interpreter with over 4 years of experience. Today is Friday, April 2nd, 2021. Today I took 29 calls. Like always, it was a mix between phone and video sessions. I think it was more video sessions this time. There were several calls that did not connect, and today was a very slow day. I'm pretty sure this was because of the holiday, and I was actually expecting it to be a slow day, but I was actually expecting it to be much slower, but it was still slow. Well, let's get down to it. Uh, Today, there wasn't really that many challenging sessions, but there were a couple of noteworthy sessions. Well, actually, more than a couple. There were like five. So, without further ado, let's get to it. Today, one thing that happened was that a gentleman didn't understand what a colonoscopy was, and then the provider explained it to him. But then, when I mentioned constipation, the gentleman was pretty nice, and he said he did not understand what I was saying, that there were a lot of words that I was saying that he did not understand. And what seemed really nice is that he said, but you know what, I'm not embarrassed to ask, so I don't understand the words that you're saying. And one of those words happened to be constipation. And the lady, I guess she didn't understand that the gentleman didn't understand constipation because she asked him the same question. She said, have you had constipation or diarrhea? So instead of asking the gentleman, because I knew he didn't understand constipation, and just to uh, save time from that session, I let the lady know. I said, excuse me, ma'am, this is the interpreter speaking. But the gentleman does not understand the meaning of constipation. And then the provider went ahead and explained the the meaning of constipation, and then the gentleman was able to understand, and he was able to understand the rest of the session without a problem. But the thing is that I actually had to remind the provider that she had to let the gentleman know when the constipation was because he didn't know. This may happen sometimes. It had never happened before though. So moving on, the next thing that happened, uh, this is something um, that can contrast with something that I've actually said before. This time it was a little boy. He was getting a physical, and everything happened so fast, and the doctor didn't point the camera away from the child, and the mother didn't ask him to either, and the the doctor was really struggling to see if one of the boy's little testicles had dropped, and he was looking for it, and the boy was crying, and he was wrestling with the little boy, and man, that just looked awful. It's like the doctor was pulling on his scrotum trying to locate the testicle, but he couldn't find it. And I would have rather not watched that because it looked bad. Like, it looked horrible. The doctor was pulling on the little kid's scrotum, and the little kid was screaming and waving all about, and the mother was there, and it was bad. But the way that it happened, I mean, the doctor was more concerned about the little boy's testicles than me actually seeing the patient without any privacy, you know. And I understood that the doctor was not going to stop his examination just to move the camera away. So I didn't say anything because I thought that it might get in the way of his examination. And one thing that I always have in mind when I'm interpreting is that I should be I should interpret, but like if I was not there, like the best interpreter to me, is the interpreter that um, feels like if there's no interpreter at all. Like you have to you have to make it feel as if you're not even there, and the communication is flowing between the two individuals or as many parties as you have. So uh, what happened is that the doctor couldn't find the little boy's testicle and was referred to urology. But something else interesting that happened during this session is that the doctor left, and I was waiting there for the doctor to come back, and the doctor pointed me directly to the lady. But I thought that the doctor was just going to come back right away because he said he was going to get some papers off the printer. But he didn't come back right away. It was actually about 5 minutes that I was waiting there, and I always tell the providers when they leave if they could point me to a wall for patient privacy. But since this time he was leaving and he was just going to get some paper from the printers, I didn't ask him to do so. So as I was sitting there, the lady just got up and then went to go get a nurse. And in her broken English, was trying to tell the nurse something, and the nurse didn't understand her. And the nurse was trying in broken Spanish, and I was just looking at them. And then I let them know that they could use me as an interpreter. And then they both saw me, and then the lady started letting me know that she wanted to breastfeed her child, but she couldn't do so because the camera was just pointing directly at her. I found it very weird that she didn't tell me anything. If she would have just told me that, I would have told her, of course, that she could point the camera away for her own privacy and also to go get a nurse to see if the doctor was coming back or what was going on. But that could have been solved so quickly and so easily, but maybe the lady was embarrassed, or I don't know. I don't know why she decided to go with the nurse instead of speaking to me that actually spoke her language. But that happened. So, I mean, like I'm telling you, every day that I do this, there's always going to be something new. It's impossible for you to just go a day without something interesting or something new happening. That's the reason why I decided to do this series. So, moving on, today I had a patient that said he felt very jodido. Now, that is a bad word in Spanish. I interpreted it as effed up because that's the translation that I would give it. Maybe some of you are not, would actually say something else. I don't know if you have something else that you can use for jodido. Go ahead and leave it in the comments. I would like to know what you use for that. But in this case, I went ahead and said effed up. I actually said the bad word. Of course, I didn't say effed up. I actually said the bad word. I'm not gonna say it here because I hope to monetize this video. So I wouldn't like that word just to drop the monetization. But anyways, um, I used to be hesitant when I first started saying bad words, and I just didn't feel right. For some reason, it just didn't feel right. And I'm a person that will freely say bad words. I don't mind it at all in a personal conversation. I don't say it so much, but if I have to say it, I will just say it without a problem. But when I was speaking to the providers and all of that, that just seemed, I don't know, inappropriate in a way. So I was hesitant, but then at our job, where I work at now, they told us that we have to say everything exactly as it's said. Even if it's the worst thing that you can imagine, you still have to interpret it and say it just as it was said, unless there's not an equivalent and you have to explain it. But you have to always keep the same register and say what they say. So if the gentleman says effed up, you gotta interpret it effed up and not feel bad about it. I remember that in an example when I was beginning interpretation, I saw an example of YouTube. I think it was De la Mora. I'm not sure if it was De la Mora or if it was another interpreter, but it was a court interpreter that was giving an example of why you should always not change the word. Like, even if it's a bad word, you have to say the bad word or the equivalent in the other language. And he gives an example of a court case where a woman had been raped, but the interpreter, when the woman said rape, that is violar, did not say rape. The interpreter was interpreting it as making love. So every time the the victim said, "I was raped," the interpreter would say, "I was made love to." So that created a really big confusion, and they were almost going to dismiss the case because the lady was saying that the guy was making love to her and not raping her. So that has always been stuck in my mind. That, like I said the other day, one word could really make a difference. That's a perfect example of that. You see how rape and making love are not the same thing, and you can really see how that could really change the situation. So it is very important, guys, very, very important that you do not change the meaning and you actually say the meaning as it is, even as horrible as it sounds. And that's what's going to make you a great interpreter. Moving on. Another thing that I had today, it was this lady that she was very, very grateful for getting a COVID vaccine. I know I would be too if I could get one. And she actually cried when she received her COVID vaccine. She got so tearful, and it was so nice to actually see her because she was so grateful about receiving that vaccine because she was so scared of COVID, and we should all be, right, because we don't know. Damn, I just said. I guess this video's not getting monetized, so who cares? So anyways, this woman was so happy that she received her COVID vaccine, and she got so tearful, and she thanked me and the nurse. She thanked both of us and everybody, and that just made me feel so good. It's those moments that make you feel good as an interpreter. And actually, that session just set the rest of my mood, and I was such a helpful mood today. So um, there's gonna be some sessions that are going to be great and they're going to make you feel awesome. But there's always the other side of that, right? The bad sessions like I had yesterday. But I mean, you're gonna have everything. So just uh, look at the positive things and don't get too caught up on the negative things, and you'll be all right. And one last thing that I'm going to talk about today is that I made a mistake when I was interpreting. Um, the reason why I think I made the mistake is because they were speaking about a low sodium diet, and that was the talk that was going on. And then when that was finished, the provider asked the patient's daughter if she had a restricted fluid intake, and I didn't say that. I said, "Does she have a restricted salt intake?" And then the lady answered, and then at that moment when she answered, I realized I didn't say fluid, I said salt. And I let the provider know, I let her know right away. This is the interpreter speaking, and I am very sorry. I actually said salt instead of fluid. Can I go back and fix the situation? And the lady said, yeah, yeah, don't worry about it. And I went back to the lady and I apologized to her as well. I told her, disculpe, este es el intérprete, he hecho un error. I told her that I made a mistake and I fixed it. And then the call just went on without a problem. And I was actually able to save it. Sometimes when I make mistakes like that and I catch them right away, like for example, if I say, um, does she have a does she have a sodium restriction? And then I'll be like, before I finish, if I catch it, I'll be like, I'm sorry, it was actually, does she have a liquid restriction and a fluid restriction? And when you do that, that's okay. That's totally valid if you can fix it at the moment. If you don't, but you realize that you made a problem, then you can use the strategy that I use now. But the most important thing I would say is to actually fix it and not just leave it like that because that looks bad on you. And of course, you were the one that made a problem. So it's better to admit the problem, and it makes you a better person, and it makes you a better interpreter too. We're not robots, we're not computers, so we're prone to making mistakes, and it's best that we know that we take account for those mistakes and we actually fix them instead of having a bigger problem later on. So that is going to be pretty much it for me today. I hope I was able to give you some wisdom today. Please leave your questions and comments. And I don't know what I'm saying. Comments. Please leave your questions and comments in the answers and in the answer. Man, it's Friday today. I'm sorry. Please leave your questions and comments, and I will answer a couple of them on the next session. Like I've always said and stated in every video, I'll be here every Monday through Friday from 6 p.m. to around 6:20 p.m. Mountain Time. Thank you so much for making it to the very end. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe if you haven't, and if you like the video for more content, don't forget to share. Happy interpreting and have a very great weekend, guys. I will be back on Monday.